So Senator King walked here from his house this morning.
In Harpswell, no.
And we've decided it's the most accurate predictor of snow for Brunswick is to schedule Angus at the center. It's the third time that it has snowed on a day that we had his event. And the last two we've had to cancel, so we're really pleased that we didn't have to do that today. So he doesn't need an introduction. We're so happy to have all of you here on this snowy morning and to have you here, sir, on this snowy morning. Thank you for coming and sharing your life with us for an hour or so.
Pleasure. Thank you, Stacy. Great to be here. The first thing I should say about shamelessly promoting the book is that all of my proceeds go to the Good Shepherd Food Bank. I wanted to support a statewide group, and I don't know if you're familiar with what they do. They're based in Lewiston, Auburn, but serve food pantries all over Maine. Unbelievable. I think last year 13 million pounds of food was distributed in the state of Maine, which is a wonderful gesture of neighborliness. It's also a sort of sad commentary that we have that many people that desire and need those services. So, the book. Well, first let me say a bit about Instagram. Instagram, for those of you that aren't familiar, is basically a really simple way to share your photos of people and friends and places. It's a little app that's on smartphones that you can download, and you take a picture, and then you edit the, you crop the picture the way you want it, and then you write something. You can or you don't have to. I like to. And you press OK, and then you press share, and immediately the entire world can see it. It's just amazing to be riding in the car, press share, and realize that people in Paris, Maine, or Paris, France, or Portland, or Washington, or Dallas, anywhere, see your picture and the words that you've shared. I started doing it about 3 or 4 years ago. My friend Cory Booker, who is a U.S. Senator from New Jersey, I think was the first senator to do his own Instagram. And he sort of bugged me and said, Angus, you gotta try this, you gotta try this. So I talked to my staff, and they were enthusiastic and very firm. They said, absolutely not. The idea of the senator taking pictures and writing whatever comes into his or her head for everyone to read was terrifying. And so after about 6 months of negotiation, we got to a place, and this is something that I do myself. When you see those pictures and the words, that's me. Every now and then, I have to admit, if there's something a little edgy, political, I'll send the copy, I'll text the copy to Kay Rand, my chief of staff, or Kathleen, my communications director, and say, what do you think? I don't think I've ever had one yet where they've said, no, or don't bother, or Actually, last night, here's a good example. Last night, if you look this morning, there's a picture of myself and Doug Jones, the senator from Alabama, the new senator who was elected last year, remember, in that very controversial election. And early last week, I was on one of the morning cable TV shows, and I was talking about the fact that I think it's sad that our politics have become so regional, that Susan Collins is the only Republican in the entire New England congressional delegation. And I said, and Bill Nelson of Florida is the only Democrat south of Virginia. I forgot Doug Jones. So he came up to me that afternoon and said, Angus, I've got this map here to take. And I felt so bad. So Thursday, when I saw him, I gave him a lobster tie. And so, I'm getting to the editing part. So the picture you'll see is of Doug and I, and he's holding up the lobster tie, that like the ones, to be honest, it was a spare. I had two of the same tie. So I gave him that tie and told him, I said, look, In Alabama, you can tell people that these are crawfish, not lobsters. And so I sent that to Kathleen and said, what do you think? And she said, in Alabama, they call them crawdads. Don't be criticized for crawfish. So if you look at it, it says, you can tell people that they're crawdads. So that was an example of the office's engagement, one word. But that's, and what I do is, I always have the phone with me, and I just basically look for something that strikes me as beautiful or interesting or unusual, particularly around the Capitol, because I try to share views that people wouldn't ordinarily see or get. I took a picture in the winter from Chuck Schumer's office of a sunset at on the mall with the Washington Monument in the background. And then a few weeks ago, I took one from a window right next to Mitch McConnell's office. The same view with a dramatic sunset. The building was lit up with this pink light. And so I made a print of it and gave it to Mitch last week. I printed it and gave it to him because it was a memory of his office where he is. And I gave him one to blow up to Chuck about a year ago. So I take pictures, and sometimes you'll see no pictures on the Senate floor. As much as I would like, that's verboten. You'd see the picture, and by the time you saw it, I'd be in jail. But they're in committee rooms, they're in the hallway. The picture with Doug and I is in a little hallway right behind the Senate chamber. In fact, it's kind of funny, I didn't notice it until I looked at the picture. There's a picture, the two of us are smiling, and right behind us is a portrait of Bob Dole, and he's smiling. It looks like he's in on the joke. It's very funny the way it came out. So a lot of the pictures are from Washington. I take a couple a week, and every now and then, I can tell you in my business, you absolutely can't please everybody. I mean, you just can't. So every now and then I get a comment, why are you wasting your time taking pictures? What are we paying you for? I get that. Well, just to be clear, generally what I'll do is take the picture, which takes a minute, half a minute, whatever, and then that night when I'm home, that's when I write the little caption and crop the picture and put it up. So I'm not spending taxpayers' money taking a picture. But believe me, no good deed goes unpunished in my business. And then the book is basically made up of a group of sections. One is Washington. One is called On the Road, of when I'm traveling, and I'm on the Armed Services and Intelligence Committees. I often, not often, maybe once or twice a year, will go on a trip involving those committees. They're always to really, to garden spots. Jordan, Turkey, Iraq. I'm going to Iraq this year. Saudi Arabia, Israel, Ukraine. But when I'm on those kinds of trips, I also take pictures of interesting places. And then there's a whole lot of Maine. And the thing about taking pictures of Maine is it's not hard to get good pictures, it's hard to not take too many pictures. And so in Maine, what I'll often do is if I see something, I'll stop the car and pull over and, a sunset or some special view of a place in Maine. You'll see lots of those. And then I have a whole series of pictures, and I'm continuing to do this, that are entitled The Glamorous Life of a U.S. Senator. The first one, the picture is of me, all you see is my hand and a ham sandwich walking to the Capitol to vote. That's the glamorous life of a U.S. Senator. And on the cover of the book is me scraping the windshield, which Mary took from inside the car. She was inside, I was outside, when we were driving up the Maine Turnpike. So the whole idea basically is just to share some fun views of Maine and Washington that you might not otherwise get, to sort of share my peculiar world of going back and forth. And by the way, I'm here pretty much every weekend. I come home late Thursday night, and I'm here Friday and Saturday, Sunday, and I'm on my way from here literally to the airport. Plane leaves at 12:04, and I'll be in Washington at about 2 for tonight, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then back Thursday night. And by the way, what I just outlined to you is one of the problems with the Senate. It's one of the reasons the Senate doesn't work the way it used to. I worked in the Senate, as some of you may know, 40 plus years ago. In fact, I moved to Brunswick from Washington in 1975. I worked in the Senate in the early 70s as a staff member. And I've often thought, now that I'm there as a senator, which by the way is sort of weird because I still think of myself as a staff member and expect people to come up and say, you can't be here, no, stop, let me see your, but one of the big differences is that in the 70s, everybody lived there and their families were there. And they came to home maybe once every 6 weeks. Ed Muskie lived in Chevy Chase, Maryland, and that's where his kids were raised and went to high school. My old boss, Bill Hathaway, lived in McLean. They used to carpool together. They had meals together. They knew each other. They had relationships with one another that formed trust and mutual confidence. Today, you listen to my outline of the schedule. Monday afternoon, the first vote that we have to be there is Monday at 5. The last vote is Thursday at about 1. So everybody goes home. And most people's families are back home. Brian Schatz, the senator from Hawaii, goes home every week to Hawaii. His family, his wife and kids are there. Colorado, Washington, Oregon, California, Maine. Everybody goes home, everybody clears out. So if you think about that, what that means is we don't know each other. We don't have sort of personal relationships, and that's really, I think, at the heart of part of why it's so hard, because there isn't trust. And I've seen it. I've seen us get close to bipartisan decisions, which by the way we do make a lot of, but on significant issues, and it breaks down over, we can't trust you. We don't believe that you're really doing this for this reason, that there's some ulterior motive. So Mary and I decided, and Mary, by the way, is here. She comes down about once every 6 months. She says, I'll only come down when something special is going on. I'm not special. That's the implication of that. But we bought a little house about 8 blocks from the Capitol, and when I say little, it's smaller than this room, 908 square feet. Although one of the Washington newspapers was writing about what I'm about to tell you, and they said it was 9,080 square feet. Speaking of my staff having a heart attack, we gotta fix that before it gets back to me. 908 square feet. Anyway, about once every 6 weeks, Claire Brigio in my office calls around the Senate, random group, always bipartisan, and invites people to dinner. And dinner is that 2 blocks from my house, from our house, is Kenny's Smokehouse, which is a pretty good rib joint. And so we'll get 4 or 5 senators, both parties. I'll call Kenny's at 5:30 on the way home, and they know me now. Peaches says, Mr. King, what do you want? 2 racks of ribs, coleslaw, mild on the side, baked beans. Pick that up on the way home, go home, and we just have dinner. It's just to talk. And I've had now about 55 or 60 of the 100 senators. And I've had everybody from Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren to Ted Cruz and Mitch McConnell. Not on the same night. But the idea, and it's amazing, and believe it or not, this is the only thing like this that goes on. Everything else is partisan. The Republicans have an official lunch of their caucus, their conference, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, the days that we're there. The Democrats are wild and crazy. They only have lunches Tuesday and Thursday, and they let people loose on Wednesday. But there's no danger of fraternization because the Republicans are in their lunch. So, I mean, that's, the Wednesday morning prayer breakfast, which is one of my favorite times of the week, is the only bipartisan group meeting of the week, and non-official. And it's really, I think, part of the problem. The last dinner that I had was just before Thanksgiving, and it was Tammy Baldwin, who's a Democratic senator from Wisconsin, Jim Risch, very conservative Republican senator from Idaho, Mitch McConnell, and his wife Elaine Chao, who's the Secretary of Transportation, and me, just the five of us. And it was sort of, Mitch, for example, sort of couldn't believe it. I mean, it was like, this was really nice. I mean, it was like, you know, and he's mentioned it several times since. In fact, I saw him just before Thanksgiving, and he said something like, you know, thanks for the free meal, but it was, it's, you wouldn't think it would be remarkable, but it is. It's my little personal effort to try to do a little bridge building. So anyway, back to the book. Pictures, and in fact, one of the best pictures in the book is a picture of dirty dishes from one of those dinners. And I enjoy the pictures, but I also really like the writing. Because with Instagram, you can just put the picture up, but you can also write a caption. And I like to write a little essay, you know, one paragraph, to describe what's in the picture. I call it political haiku. You know, you have to do it, it's short. You can't write a long, you know, 900-word op-ed. It's a little short piece. But it tries to describe what the picture's all about and a little bit of background about what it is. For example, with the picture last night with Doug Jones, I told the story of misstating that, forgetting about him in Alabama and giving him the tie and what that was all about. So that's really the story of the book, and it's it's a little bit of a the Instagram is it's in a sense a hobby, and it's sort of a fun way for me to be a little bit diverted from the intensity of it. And you'll see some of the pictures and the essays are disappointing. For example, I take a lot of pictures of how beautiful the Capitol is, and almost always say, isn't it a shame our quality of work doesn't match the beauty of our surroundings? It's hard not to reach that conclusion. But anyway, I hope you enjoy the book. It is for a good cause. And it was printed, the publisher is here in Maine, Island Port Press down in Yarmouth. It was printed in the USA, I'm proud to say. And it makes a great stocking stuffer. So why don't I stop there, and if there are any questions either about Instagram or about the Senate or what's going on. Way in the back, yes.
You were alluding to the bipartisanship and what you do to help so that there's not bipartisanship with your dinners. And I heard an interview with Alan Stinson, and he said he went back to visit the Capitol. And the thing that disappointed him the most was there was no Senate dining room. And one of his fondest memories was meeting with all of the different senators in the dining room for lunch. And he said that when he went to that room, it is currently a storage room. And he alluded to the same thing that you said, the problem with bipartisanship, that they all just disperse quickly. Why don't they, since our taxpayers are paying all the money for things done at the Capitol, why don't they change that storage room to a Capitol Senator dining room?
I didn't, to confirm your story, I never heard of the room. I don't even know where it is. So there is a Senate dining room, but it's more formal, and it's where you take guests and your senior staff and that kind of thing. But, but there wouldn't be any point in it because the parties have their official lunches every day. So there's no, and I don't think, and I keep needing to check this, but I don't think when I was there in the 70s they had those lunches. The lunches are like 7th grade pep rallies. You know, it's all about, you know, we're gonna beat the other guys. And they're informative. I mean, I don't want to dismiss it entirely. They are informative and they're often important, but we don't need to do it 2 or 3 times a week. I believe that there's actually, they don't want us to get to know one another almost. It's easier to sort of hold people together if you can demonize the other side. Here's an example. I believe that you can't hate someone if you know the names of their kids. That's a kind of principle for me. And just an idea about how these dinners work. One night we were having dinner and Ted Cruz was there. And you know, you see Ted Cruz on CNN and he's this very stern and sort of angry guy. In the middle of dinner, he looked at his watch. He said, "Angus, you mind if I go upstairs and make a phone call?" I said, "No, not at all." So he goes up, makes his call, comes back. Turns out Ted Cruz, wherever he is, every night at 8 o'clock calls his kids. Now that's something you don't hear on CNN or even on Fox. I mean, it's just a sort of human side of people, and that's what we try to bring out. But you're right. But if they restored the lunchroom, I don't think it would be used because the parties have us in these closed meetings. Yes, ma'am.
When you appear on some of the, whether it's cable or national network news, how much notice do they give you? And how do you decide whether to say yes or no?
That's a really good question. Her question is, when I'm on CNN or MSNBC or Fox or whatever, how much notice of what they're going to talk about and how do I decide? My communications director, they'll call her and say, "We'd like Angus to be on New Day on Thursday." And we'll discuss it. And I try to weigh, I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to be always on and, you know, sort of a hog for the camera. On the other hand, if I feel that I've got something to contribute, I'll do it. What you know about what they're going to talk about, each station is a little different. Generally, they'll say, "We want to talk about Syria." Not, "Here's the question," but "We want to talk about Syria," or "We want to talk about Michael Cohen," or, in other words, I'll get a general idea of the topic. The day before, for about a half hour, depending upon the topic, if it's, let's say, Syria, I'll have my foreign policy people and we'll sit around for a half hour and talk about the latest news, so I have some preparation. On the other hand, there are stations, this was funny, last week, this was just, I don't know, Tuesday on CNN New Day, I'm standing there and I can't remember, they'd given us some general warning, but Allison, I think it was, looked at the camera at the end of the segment and said, "And next will be with us Independent Senator Angus King of Maine to talk about the most important issue before Congress today." I had no idea what she was going to ask about. And then the commercial comes and I'm just, you know, what's it going to be? And those are all, that's always, pretty much always live. The other thing, occasionally you see me on Sunday, I'm at Bowdoin. Bowdoin has a studio in the first floor of Kohl's Tower that can connect to any of the networks nationwide. So it's really great for me. I can go over to Kohl's Tower 15 minutes in advance, sit down, and I'm on Meet the Press. And it links through Boston or something. So last Sunday, I was on Fox News Sunday and Meet the Press on the same morning. And that's from Bowdoin. The other shots you see, I'm always in a place where there are columns in the background. That's in the Russell Senate Office Building, and there's a rotunda. And around the rotunda, each network has a little place with a camera, lights, and it's all around that, you know, the rotunda. And so that's where that is. So it's pretty easy to go. But the short answer is, I generally have some idea what they're going to talk about. Now, Morning Joe, no idea. I don't think Joe has any. You know, they just talk about whatever is in the news that morning. so you have to be pretty loose for morning job. Sir?
Get back to the photography. How long has that been an interest of yours? And are you like Ringo Starr, have gotten away from SLR cameras and just using smartphones?
Yes, in fact, I lost my SLR camera about 4 years ago and never looked back. I've always enjoyed it. And here's something sort of funny. I don't know if I've ever told anybody this. I worked for a guy named Bill Hathaway in the 70s. And part of my job in those days as a young guy was to drive him around Maine, you know, and to meetings and stuff. And I remember suggesting, I said, you know, boss, we are in Maine all the time. Why don't you carry a camera, take pictures, and you could publish a book of, you know, your pictures of Maine. And Bill wasn't interested, and it didn't happen. And here it is 45 years later, and I'm doing it. The cameras in these are now so good that, I mean, sometimes you could get better pictures with a better camera, but by and large, the trade-off used to be, it's not a very good camera, but I always have it. Now, it's a pretty good camera, and I always have it. And so, Mary says, I'm at LLB for a meeting. Should I get skis? I'll answer. I've always been interested in photography, but I've never taken a course or anything. The picture in here that I'm proudest of is a picture of General Chamberlain's statue. It was taken exactly a year ago, the night of the first snowstorm, and it's a picture of the statue from behind and the flag in the church. And the reason I'm so proud of it is when you look at it, when I first took it, there are lights in front of the statue, you know, that shine up on it, and the lights were too bright, and the picture was, you know, sort of washed out because of those lights. So I went over and put my hat and gloves over one of it. And if you look at the picture carefully, you can see there's something black in front of the spotlight, and it made it come out a very nice picture. So that's my only sort of real photographer. Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever met with Donald Trump?
I met him once, and it's sort of a funny story. There was a briefing at the White House for the whole Senate. We were all there waiting for it to start, and I went over to a guy, you know, somebody was standing there, and I said, "Is there a bathroom?" And he said, "Yeah, through that little room, you know." And I walked in a little room, bathroom. I walk out of the bathroom. There's Donald Trump standing in the room with Mike Pence. I never met either one of them. So I shook hands with Mike Pence and introduced myself. Donald Trump and I shook hands with Mr. President. Nice to meet you. He looked at me. The first words out of his mouth were, "Central casting. You look just like a senator."
Oh my God.
And that was it. So I called my office and said, "Wow, the president says I look just like a senator." And 5 minutes later, they texted me an article from one of the New York newspapers, the title of which was "Central Casting." He says that to everybody. That's one of his standard lines. In fact, I think he hires people because of what they look like. But that's my one interaction with the president. I haven't met him.
Sounds about right.
I've actually, and I don't want to overstate this because it's not like I'm getting invited all the time, but I decided because I'm on the Intelligence Committee working on the investigation of the campaign, I didn't want to go to the White House. I didn't want to be compromised in any way. So I basically, like they have a party every year for the Congress, and I haven't gone to that because until we're finished, I don't want anybody to say I've been influenced by it.
Senator needs 30 minutes at least to sign books, so I think we have about 30 seconds left for one more quick
I'll try to be
question.
quick.
This might be intimate for this area, but for this group, but I was really uplifted by you saying something about having dinner in a bipartisan way. So then I heard that she brought up the Senate dining room, you know, the whole idea of them having their lunches separately, it didn't feel very uplifting at all.
Yes.
So now, do you have anything currently or in your head about other people talked about that? Is there a way, because that seems to be the weight that's going to get us out of this.
Well,
stuff.
I'm going to continue to do it. They still know me as Kenny Smokehouse. One other of my colleagues, Joe Manchin of West Virginia, lives on a boat. He has a boat that is a good-sized boat. Don't feel sorry for him. And he occasionally in the summer has bipartisan sort of barbecue things. But other than that, there's not much going on. I plan to continue to try to do it. I'm having dinner with a couple of my colleagues tonight. And I would like to see us scrap one of the, well, here's a perfect example. Last week, we had a dinner on, I think it was Wednesday night, for the departing senators, you know, and there were four Democrats and 2 Republicans, I think, to honor them, to, you know, talk about them and that kind of thing. Chuck Schumer said to Mitch McConnell, why don't we do this together? And Mitch said no. Why? I mean, it was a, you know, it was a kind of warm night of, you know, thank you, we're gonna miss you and that kind of thing. And I don't know why that was the case. I think that was a missed opportunity. And occasionally we'll have joint lunches. We haven't had one in about a year and a half. The last one I can remember was with John McCain telling about his experiences. I'm going to try to keep doing what I can, and I can tell you the other uplifting thing. I can tell you that there are a lot of sort of rank and file senators like myself who are getting tired of this, and who are getting tired of not having a full voice. One of the things they don't teach you in civics classes is the majority leader of the U.S. Senate and the Speaker of the House have absolute 100% unfettered power over what comes to the floor for a vote. Period. A bill can come out of a committee, unanimous, both parties, everybody's for it, and if Mitch McConnell or Harry Reid or Chuck Schumer, whoever the leader is, says it's not coming up, it doesn't come up. We passed in 2013 in the Senate by 2/3, 67 votes, a comprehensive immigration bill. It went to the House, and John Boehner would not let it come to the floor for a vote. And that's, my colleagues are getting frustrated with that, basically saying, look, we got elected too. And I think that there is some movement to try to break that down a little bit. But in the meantime, I'll keep having my little dinner. So look up the picture of the dirty dishes. One more, and then I'll. So, yes, ma'am.
Can you say a few words about your feelings about how our relationship should be with Russia?
Well, there's a report in the Washington Post, I think it was yesterday morning, that you should read, about Russia's utilization of social media to basically screw up our democracy. It's very disturbing. And frankly, because of the work that I've done over the last year and a half on the Intelligence Committee, not surprising, but people need to understand that these folks are very intent on essentially splitting us apart. And the same thing with Europe. Anywhere there's a division, they go in and try to magnify it. On the other hand, we're the 2 largest nuclear powers, and we should have some relationship, and we shouldn't be at each other's throats. It's a delicate matter, but we can't tolerate what they did. And my concern, and I'm sorry, you asked a big question. Did anybody see, well, it wasn't last night, Mary and I watched a tape of Madam Secretary. Has anybody watched Madam Secretary? It's a really good show. It's amazingly accurate. And what happened in Madam Secretary was that there was a Russian troll farm that was sowing discontent in Eastern Europe, in Kosovo and Serbia, and with false rumors and that kind of thing. And we blew it up, not with a bomb, but by cyber. We turned off all their computers. We've never done that in real life. The problem is we're allowing other countries, Russia being one, China being another, Iran, North Korea, other people, to attack us through cyber, but we never respond. And as long as we don't respond, they're gonna keep attacking us. I mean, that's sort of common sense. If we hadn't responded to Pearl Harbor, you know, there would have been a further attack probably on California. I mean, you've got to respond, and we've never done that. So I think that's something that I'm very concerned about, because the next Pearl Harbor will be cyber. It will be the financial system or the electrical system or the gas pipeline system, and it's very scary, and they can do it cheaply. Putin can hire 4,000 hackers for the price of one jet fighter. So it's a very, I'm sorry to end on a serious note, but it's a very serious problem that we've got to figure out how to contend with, and so far we have. Okay, on that, happy